Hey, it's Fox here, and today we're going to talk about bike tires. It's getting really nice and warm out, so you might want to go outside for a good ride. But if your tires are flat, it's not going to be very fun. So today we're going to learn how to pump up your tires properly so they're nice and firm and give it a fun ride without damaging your bike or going too slow. The first thing you're going to need to figure out when you're inflating your bike is what kind of valves your bike tires are using, because there are two different kinds out there and they need different pumps. Sometimes your air pump will have both of them on it. Sometimes it might only have one. Hopefully whichever one you have in your garage or your shed or at home is going to match your bike. So you can see we've got two different ones here. The one here is on my bike. This is called a Presta valve. It's kind of long and skinny. And you unscrew this little dust cap here. Oop, I dropped it. It's going to look like that underneath. Hopefully it's not quite as bent as mine is. And it's also got this little twisty bit here. So that one there is called a Presta valve. We are going to get to that one, but it's a little bit more fancy, so we're going to get to it last. We're going to start with a different valve for more common bikes. Let's tighten this back up. Over here we have what's called a Schrader valve. It's probably what most of you have. It's common on a lot of mountain bikes, or if you got your bike from like Walmart or Canadian Tire, this is probably the kind of valve that's on it. It's much more common. See, it's a little bit shorter, it's a little bit thicker than the other one. And when you remove the dust cap, this takes a while to unscrew. It's just going to look like this underneath. Not quite as fancy, still works really well. This is the valve that we're going to start with. Bikes I have these fancy little valves on it. Normally what comes with your bike is just a black plastic one. Works the same. I just bought a couple of these online because I thought they looked fancy. So don't worry if yours doesn't look like this. Yours probably looks like black plastic, unless it went missing, because they often get lost too. So we've taken the dust cap off of our bike here. As you can see, if I squeeze it, it's pretty flat, squishes in a lot. It's going to make your ride really bumpy. It also makes it more likely for you to get a flat tire because it can pinch a lot, and that's no fun. So you don't want to go riding if your tire's doing this. But before you even pump it up, you want to try and figure out how firm it needs to be. So what you're going to do is look at the side of your tire. You'll often see this writing on it. You want to spin it around until you see the letters PSI. That tells you how firm it needs to be. So this one, the maximum, the firmest it can be is 50 PSI. That's pounds per square inch. And how you're going to want to figure that out is if you've got you or someone in your house has a pressure gauge for a car tire, those can work. I also have a bike stand here that has all these different numbers on it. That's how I like to figure out what the PSI of my tire is. So as you pump, this needle here is just going to go up and up and up until you hit the right number. If you don't have anything that's going to show you the numbers, that's okay too. Just try and pump it up until it's nice and firm and it's not going flat like that. If it's going flat like that, that's no good. So now that we've figured out, yes, our tire is flat, we know that it needs to go to 50 PSI. Oops, sorry. Trying to do this one-handed while I use my cell phone to film the video. You're going to need to get your bike pump out. So mine's a nice floor pump. Big handle, foot base, pumps up and down, like so. And that whooshing here, of course, is the air and the hose. On this one here, you can see it's got two different holes because, like I was showing you, there are two different types of bike nozzles. So for this one, I don't know if you can see in the hole. No, the camera's not going to show it. On this one, I believe it's the top hole that we're aiming for. If you try and use it and it just doesn't fit properly, it just means that you need to try the other one. So let's get this onto the bike. You're going to push it on nice and firm like that. And then you see the lever on the side there? You need to put it so it's nice and flat. There you go. So when it looks like that, now it's locked in place. I can pull on it and it's not going to go anywhere. And we know that the air is going to get into that bike. So now that we've got it all nice and attached, we're going to put our foot on our pump here, hand on the handle up here, and we're going to try and keep track of that arrow at the bottom. So you see when it moves, if I put air, that puts more pressure in it. So it's going to go up and up and up. And remember, we're wanting 50. So it's a little hard to see because of the glare, but my 40 is here. That's the big 60 up there. So somewhere in between those two is where I want it. I actually like my front tire to be a little bit softer than the maximum because it's going to hit all those bumps first. So I just want it to smooth out the ride. Sorry, this is a little bit shaky right now. It's kind of hard to do this one-handed while I'm filming. So we're almost there. There we go. You can see it's about 50 right now. So that's where we want it to be. We're going to come over to this bike. We're going to have to try and do this kind of quick as I need to open this back up so it lets go and then pull it off. So squeeze it in like this. You can hear some of the air bush out. Pull it off. We're good to go. Grab the dust cap. Hopefully you didn't lose. And now you can just screw it back on like so. And that just keeps the nozzle nice and clean so it's easy to reinflate your tires. If it's missing, that's okay too, but you can buy replacements online pretty cheap. Or maybe talk to a bike shop. They might be able to help you out too. So like I was mentioning, not everyone has a fancy tire pump that shows you the pressure. So you can also just squeeze it. As you see, doesn't really squeeze anymore. I can make it give a little bit, but I'm pretty strong. If you're not quite as strong as me, you just want to squeeze it so it's basically not moving at all. And that'll make it a nice, smooth ride so you're not using a ton of energy when it's flat. It's harder to pedal. Now it'll go nice and smooth. Go over those bumps. You don't have to worry about flats so much. And you'll have a nice ride. And you can get your bike back out on the road or the sidewalk. So as a quick recap, you want to take the dust cover off. Put your bike pump on. Look for the PSI. And that's the number of how firm you want your bike tire to be. Alright. And now we are on to our second bike. It's the one with the Presta valve. As you can see, if I squeeze it, it's way too flat. That's no good. You're going to get a flat tire. It's not going to be very fun to ride. So remember, there's a different bike tire. It's actually a little bit skinnier than the other one. So you have to look for what's the PSI again. Just want to follow this. You can spin the tire a little bit if you need to. And if you look, it's right over here. So between 50 and 75 PSI. I usually have this one about 70 because, like I said, it's a front tire. And I like to have those just a little bit softer. If you're replacing your tires to make your life a little bit easier, make sure that this PSI is somewhere near the valve. That way it's just easier to find every time you need to reinflate your tire. The Presta valve's just a little bit more complicated than the one you were looking at before. It's kind of got two steps. You see it a lot more in road tires. It does better with high pressure, high numbers in that PSI. So you take off the dust cover and you can see, unfortunately mine's a little bit bent. Still works though. If you look, there's this kind of stick here and this bit here. That little bit there unscrews. So you can see there's a little bit of a gap now. If I touch it, you can hear a bit of a noise. That's some of the air escaping. So again, pulled over my nice bike pump. This time, so last time I used the top nozzle. Now I'm going to be using the bottom. It might be different on yours. So again, just try it. If it's not working, try the other hole. Sometimes it could take a little bit of wiggling to get these on. A little bit difficult for me to do one-handed. Got it on. Again, flip that orange over down like that. Pull on it. It's not moving anywhere. Hopefully we can get some air in our tire. So you can hear the air whooshing in. Is that needle moving? Moving a little bit. Let's see if we can get some more air in. It might not. If it's not moving a lot, that probably just means that you didn't quite get the valve on properly. So I'm going to pause the video and fix that just because it's really hard for me to do one-handed. Then we'll pick back up. Alright, took a moment, but I've got it back on. I just had it pushed in a little bit too tight. So if you've got this kind of valve and the air is not going into your tire, just make sure the nozzle on this isn't pushed too far in. Just move it back and forth a little bit until it works. As you can tell, it's a lot quieter now. Needle's moving more, so we got some good pressure on this one. So I'm going to pause the video while I pump this up because I'm going to need two hands near the end. Alright, as you can see, we're pretty close to 70 there on the valve, or on the gauge down here. And we got this over here. So we're just going to, again, close that lever, remove it. And remember, this is a two-step valve, so we're just going to tighten this back up. If you can't remember which way to go, same as everything else. Righty-tighty, lefty-loosey. Screw that back on. That's nice and closed again. Just a dust cover to keep all the gunk off of it. And if you don't have the gauge, you just want to squeeze it so it's nice and firm. So you can see I can make it move a little bit, but really not a lot. If you're still not sure, of course, you can just kind of get on your bike, ride it around the block a little bit. If it feels comfortable, then you're probably good. So there you go. That's how to inflate a Presta valve. And there you go. There's some basics on how to inflate your bike tires. Remember, you've got 2 tires, so you want to check both of them. And you're probably, if you ride it a lot, going to need to use it more than once a summer to inflate your tires and all of that. So if you feel like they're getting kind of flat or they feel kind of weird, just remember to give them a bit of a squeeze or use a gauge to see how much pressure is left in them. And, again, you might have to inflate them more than once a season. Kind of depends on how much you ride, how difficult the terrain is, your tires and all of that. And if you're pumping and pumping and pumping and nothing's happening and you're moving the nozzle and it's still not working, that might just mean you need to change the inner tube on the tire. If you have tire levers, that's not too complicated, but it is a next step. If you're not comfortable with that, maybe get a grown-up to do it or take it to a bike shop. They can probably do that for you pretty quick. And I believe they're still open at the moment, although check their websites because they'll probably have special rules in place. If you're curious about some more basic bike maintenance, put something in the comments or email us and I'll maybe put out a second video. If nobody asks for it, then I'm not going to do another bike video. But I do know a couple more things about some chains and fixing up some brakes and stuff. So if you're curious to learn more, let us know and we'll see what we can put out for you. Until then, ride safe, wear your helmet.